Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's broadcast of Quick Launch Live, where we talk for just 15 minutes about a specific data concept, some tips and tricks, help you think more about your data driven journey and how you can improve your operations by becoming data driven. So, just a few housekeeping items, like always. Love questions, encourage questions. Please put questions in the comments and we'll address them as soon as I see them. And if we can't address everyone, I'll commit we'll follow up on anything that we missed. If you're with us live, please put a one in the chat. If you watch on demand, remember if you go to the Preferred Strategies company page on LinkedIn and also follow us, you'll get notifications. But you can see all of our past broadcasts in case there's a particular topic, security, governance, value of a data model, Excel, that might pique your interest. So go check us out there. And if you want to follow up with us, morning, Jill. If you want to follow up with us further, please reach out to anybody. We are all about your data. It's what we do. We're passionate about it. February will be our 21st year in business doing this. So very excited. Now, today, very excited to share with you. We're going to talk about a question that comes up quite a bit. What are the components of Power BI and what are my licensing options? How do I subscribe to it? And what does that look like? So for that, I'm very honored to introduce a guest on our broadcast this morning. He is the president and founder of Preferred Strategies and is quite knowledgeable in this area. So we're honored to have him. Welcome to the cast, Mr. Adam Crigger. Hey, Adam.
Hey, thanks, Frank.
All
Glad to
right.
be here.
Yeah, this is great. So I'm going to tee it up with a few slides and then I'll hand it over to Adam to take us deeper. Let me know when you can see it. Hopefully it's there. So we're going to talk about Power BI components and licensing options. There's three main components that I like to point out when you look at the Power BI framework. You've got the Power BI desktop. In this, you can go right now before this broadcast is over. You can have Power BI installed. Just download the desktop. It's free, and you can start creating some content. Microsoft's smart though. You want to start sharing that content. Well, now you need to publish it to the service. You can also create content in the service, but now that's a subscription where you're starting to consume and pay for some licenses. And then one really nice piece with Power BI is the mobile app. Works very well in how you can have data and dialogue and correspondence and collaboration right from your mobile device. So three main components. Power BI Pro, $10 per user per month or $9.99. And then Power BI Premium, two facets to that, $20 per user per month, and per capacity is $4,995. Adam will talk more about this. And then I put on here just what capabilities, what features are included with each version. And for anybody out there that wants these slides, if these would be helpful for you, just reach out. I'm happy to email them and share them after the fact. So if this would be helpful to you, please do reach out. But there's one thing I want us all to remember out there in Quick Launch Live land. Does having Power BI make us data driven? No, Power BI is a visual reporting tool. It is great for creating really good dashboards and reports with transactional drill down capability, but it doesn't get us to be data driven. Just keep that in mind. Transforming your data for optimized reporting, security, governance, and so forth, that's what gets us to be data driven. So though we're talking about the reporting tool, I just want to keep that in everybody's mind. So, Adam, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Then can you go back to your slides, Frank, and just go back up a couple
Sure.
screens? Yeah, right here is good. Go to the pricing that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think there's one as Frank mentioned, you can go out there right now if you don't already have Power BI, or just Google download Power BI desktop, and you can download for free the desktop. And that's the other option would be to the left of Pro, which you see. And for individual, if you just wanted to tinker and pull in data from a spreadsheet or just connect to some other data sources as an individual, you can go ahead and do that. I think it's the collaboration which kind of gets you into the next tier of Pro. And we'll speak to I think what are the big differences. We do get a lot of questions from clients or prospects of, well, why do I need anything more than Pro? Like why premium? And we'll kind of cover that. But Pro is the next tier where you can publish, as Frank shared, to the service, and then you can have multiple people collaborating on dashboards, collaborating on reports, creating apps that are shared by a community of users out there throughout the organization. And so then if you can do that with Pro, I think it begs the question of kind of why go to premium. And I think just giving a little bit of a history here, that per user premium that Frank's pointing at right now of $20 per user per month, that wasn't always there. So for several years, there was Power BI free, Power BI Pro, and Power BI Premium on a per capacity, which you see there for $5,000 a month. And so a lot of companies said, oh, I can go from free to $5,000 a month. That's a pretty big gap,
Yep.
right? And the Pro would made a lot of sense. It's only $10 per user per month. So if it got 10 users or 20 users or 50 users at $10 per user per month, that's a lot less than $5,000. And so the bigger organizations that had strategized on Power BI as their technology of choice on part of their data-driven journey, maybe some of them already had per capacity. But back in April of 2021, Microsoft rolled out a generation 2 of Power BI, and this Gen 2 introduces Power BI Premium per user. Okay, and one of the main things that we want to talk about that is what does that mean? So Frank, if you go to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't think about this, and it's probably hard to tell, but right there in that model size limit, which is the data prep, modeling, and visualization, you can kind of see Power BI Pro, 1 gigabyte. So the next top, there you go. 1 gigabyte for Pro, 100 gigabytes for Premium per user, and 400 gigabytes per capacity. And that, of all of these things, in my opinion, is one of the most important to try and understand why you need premium. So in the past, and before that April 2021, before that Gen 2 became available,
Yep.
We had a lot of customers that were strategizing on Microsoft Power BI technologies, but they had, again, you got to bring all this data. And I think, as Frank mentioned, the other sessions, we talked about a data model. What's the value of having a centralized, unified data set, right? We bring in all this data from the ERP and potentially other sources and relate it together. When you do that and you bring in that single source of truth, one data set that has lots of data, can have lots of data, which then gets compressed into memory. And this is actually the size that gets compressed into memory. So that's where Pro, if you have 1 gigabyte data set, we found that if you have over 5 to 7 million rows of data, and there's lots of variables here, so there's no like exact, row count per se, but about that volume is where Power BI Pro hits its max. You start getting out of memory errors if you're beyond that, because what happens is that's 1 gigabyte, but it's going to have to pull all that data in Power BI, uncompress and compress down to that 1 gigabyte. So getting too technical here, but that's important. So if your strategy is Power BI, 1 gigabyte data set just isn't going to cut it. So that kind of forces you into Power BI Premium. And now you've got the option of just adding the additional $10 per user per month for Premium per user, or the Premium per capacity. Now you get 100 gigabytes. And so to put it in perspective, if I'm a customer that has a couple 100 million rows of data, decent size, compressed, I might be in the 4, 5, 6 gigabyte, 10 gigabyte range, right? So it takes a bit to get a data set to 100 gigs, right? So that should cover most companies. Now, if you're Amazon, got, I don't know how many trillions of rows of data, that's a different story. But for most ERP customers that we work with, that's plenty. So that's kind of the key there, is the data set size. The next right below that is the refresh rate, where it's 8 per day and 48 per day. So what that means is that you can publish this data set into Power BI in the service, and you can refresh that data set throughout the day. So there is a scheduler in Power BI that lets you do that. So Power BI Pro, you can do that 8 times a day, maybe every hour for the most 8 critical hours of the day.
Yep.
Power BI Premium, 48. So now you can schedule that 48. So that's a nice feature. And for some customers that are just doing a few times a day and timing doesn't really matter, that's fine. But what we find is that if you have really large volumes of data and you're pulling 5 or 10 years of data into your data set, do you really want to load every single refresh 9 years of static data that's not changing? And I think that's the challenge of, okay, how do you incrementally load data into your Power BI premium data set, right? Because that's really, if you're trying to shorten that window of how long it takes, and unfortunately, that's where you have to look at alternatives with power automation, or just there's a couple different techniques based on how you approach it that we can help you with. But that's kind of the goal, is those are all full loads and you want to do incremental. So that's another key thing about premium that's good to know. And then Office 365, some people say, well, I thought I had Power BI.
Adam, really quick there, we had two questions. This one you just addressed, I think. Why premium over pro? And we just had this question come in, if you can see the screen. What is included with Office licenses? So I think you're sitting right there. So perfect.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. So a lot of people say, well, I have Office 365. Don't I have Power BI? And you do if you have E5, Office 365 E5 includes Power BI Pro, the $10 per user per month, does not include premium. So you have to then upgrade. So all you do is pay the difference. Okay. So if you think about it, if you have E5, that dollar break even point is about 250 users to get to that $5,000 on per capacity. But that's kind of what's covered. If you have less than E5, like E3 or business or some other version of Office 365, it's that $20 per user per month on premium. One thing to note, just real quick, I'm looking at the clock, we've only got a couple minutes left, but the premium per capacity does give you more dedicated nodes, meaning that you kind of have a little bit more dedicated infrastructure for you for that higher rate. But we've got a lot of customers running on Power BI Premium per user and not having really any issues with not having those dedicated. But if this is mission critical, your solution, and you're a big enough organization and you've got hundreds of users, premium per capacity is probably the direction to go. But you could actually work up to that from a financial perspective as your users grow and adoption grows, to start with per user, then migrate to that later.
It's a good point.
Frank, I've got a couple other things I could share, but I don't, I'm looking at the clock. Are there any other questions or any other questions that you have that you hear all the time that you'd like me to address?
Nope, I don't see the Office questions. And what is the difference? Why would I need premium? That comes up quite a bit. If someone's on E5, they think, okay, I'll use Pro for now. And when we we're setting up with our data sizes and the data model, we have them go right to premium. Now, if they're on E5, Adam, just to confirm, that's only an additional $10 per user per month.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, but I think as you were sharing that, Frank, it actually made me think of something that's really important here.
Please, yeah.
With Power BI Premium per user, some people think, oh, okay, that's just a bit the data set out there, but can I just have users collaborate with that data with Pro? And the answer is no, because those Power BI Premium data sets get published in the service into a Power BI Premium like kind of workspace, and any data set that's there requires a premium license to be able to interact with that data. And that's with Power BI or even Excel or paginated reports. So that's a critical feature. The other thing to note is if Power BI Premium per capacity, that's for unlimited users from a consumer perspective. So even with premium per capacity, for other authors that are going to build Power BI reports, they need a pro license, again, which is included with 365. So it's, fortunately, there's no simple, just kind of goes through. One thing I would say before we log off here, we have created a few calculators that we can, be happy to share if of interest, that kind of help you kind of figure out based on, these questions, and it'll determine what your estimated Power BI licensing would be. And then as you go beyond just Power BI and think about, well, I want to go to, build a Delta Lake or Data Lake, or, looking at some of these other services running in Azure, right? We can help you, how to get access and estimate what those ongoing recurring costs, not with preferred strategies, just with Microsoft and Azure or Databricks and so on.
Yeah, one other thing, and I'll pop this back up because we did mention it in the title on LinkedIn. All three versions do include paginated reports, which is the evolved kind of version of SSRS reporting services, right?
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe that just recently came back to Pro, but I want to confirm that. I thought that was only a premium, and then I was informed recently that that's now part of Pro, but that is a very important. So there's a lot of companies that built out SSRS and
Mhm.
migrating those to Paginated, and it's really great because SSRS traditionally you had to spin up the infrastructure just to support that, and now that can kind of run as a service within the Power BI license.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, with our clients, and one of the biggest changes Microsoft made in the positive was the per user premium option. I think that had the biggest impact. And we're seeing a lot more companies that are smaller in size, but being data driven is equally important to them, and they're able to take advantage of it. So, folks, I know we went a minute over. Hint: I don't know when yet, but Adam mentioned the online calculators for pricing the services in Azure. If I can coax him, if we can be nice, I'll see if I can get Adam back, and he can actually walk us through that calculator. I think that would be another 15 minutes well spent. But for now, hopefully you got just one takeaway that helps you think through this. Reminder: if these slides are helpful, just reach out and I'll shoot you the PDF. Happy to share. And if any of you have any questions about data, being data driven, Power BI, paginated reports, just reach out. Preferred Strategies, we're all about your data. We love what we do. And Adam, I want to say a sincere thank you. I know how busy you are to come join us today. So appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much, Frank. Glad to be here.
All right.
All
Have
right.
a good day, everybody. Take care.